Hey there, it's me, Marvin. I finally sat down and watched this special called Tiny, a story about living small. And basically, there's this couple who decided they're going to build a tiny house, which is probably about 100 or 200 feet of space for a house to fit in. So essentially, it's just like me building a house out of half of my space here in the living room and kitchen. Um, Basically, but it's kind of like even just the kitchen by itself could be that tiny house, all the way up to like the counterpart coming out to the living room. But yeah, so it was interesting. It made me think a bit about values and how you spend your time, and how much with the time that you're given. You know what's really important in life versus what's thought to be very important in life. And one of the biggest things they address is just the need in general by a lot of people in society to feel like bigger is better, and that they have to prove something to other people. And by having bigger houses and fancier cars and all this stuff, it makes them feel important. They draw a lot of value and self-worth from that stuff. But a lot of times the issue too is that they have these big houses and they have these big, these fancy cars and all these special things and all these, things, a lot of times stuff they don't even really need. And they're also spending so much time trying to pay for these things to where they really can't spend most of the time. They can't even spend a lot of time with these things they have because they spend so much time just trying to earn the money to pay. And then on top of that, they have these debts, from student loans, from mortgages, from just all this stuff. People are like in, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 worth of debt. And then trying to afford all these big things and these things they can show off to their friends, and they're sinking. That's what they're doing. And just watching these people with the house, not saying I'm going to build a tiny house myself. I mean, it's kind of inspiring. Honestly, if I were to do something like that, it's going to need to be about the size of my apartment that I live in right now. It could be maybe a little bit smaller, but I think it's important for me that I have space to exercise in. That's really the biggest thing. And then I can have people over without it being super uncomfortable. And so I realized when I had my potluck that actually my living room it's small. It is, I agree, but it isn't so small to where I can't have a couple people in here and we can enjoy a good time. And so that's a realization I had to come to. And I was glad I found that out this 2 weekends ago. But yeah, so it's important to, what was I saying? Just the values that people have in, by having these smaller houses, they are able to really think about and also be more efficient, and more environmentally conscious as well. Because a lot of times when you have these big houses and all these big things, it's easy to be wasteful and just have stuff just to be having stuff. So if you don't even need, you just have. And I've always been the kind of person where, I think it's, like I said, I believe it's very tempting just to get more stuff just because you make more money. As soon as you start to make more money, it's easy just to be like, okay, now I'm going to spend more money. And so you never really get ahead no matter how much money you make. And so, or you get ahead temporarily until you just start really slacking off and just kind of being like, okay, well, I have more money now, so I can buy this, I can buy that, I can buy that. And I think that's where we get into, that's how it kind of starts. And then before you know it, you have to make more money to cover the more money you're putting out. It's a cycle, and that's something I think I'm bad at. There are a lot of Americans that just really focus on getting more money so they can spend more money, and that mentality is kind of draining, because you're always going in a circle. You're always going in a circle with it. So having more doesn't necessarily mean having more. So when I say that, I mean that just because you have this, and that doesn't mean that you have more when it comes to like self-value and integrity and dignity. It doesn't really increase that stuff. It's just outside stuff. And I think there's an important balance between having materials in your life and then not letting the materials own you, as a person, or have you. Just kind of realizing where the line is between, okay, I own this thing and it's fun, it's enjoyable, but it doesn't represent me as a person, or it doesn't make a direct impact on my self value as self, worth as a person. And so these things just to kind of think about. This kind of made me think about just a lot of different little things, and it brought up a lot of different little facts. And one thing about using your space efficiently, and I think a lot of us don't, even no matter how big or small apartments our houses are, a lot of us just do not use our space efficiently. We're just kind of like just throw things anywhere, put things anywhere. It's all about convenience and just like, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now, so I put it away and I'll deal with it sometime. Never make a scheduled time or a specific time, just sometime vaguely in the future. One thing I did like that the guy, Chris Smith, the one I was building the house with his girlfriend, I believe, was that he mentioned something about how he learned that when you go into a big project like that, building a house, especially something you've never done before, one of the things he mentioned, I think was very true. The first time you do anything new and that's big, especially a big project, you need to expect for it to take more time than what you think it's going to take. Because you're new at it, there's a lot of little things you have to learn along the way that you're just not going to know automatically. So when you go in it, the second, third, fourth, or fifth time, you'll be able to do it a lot faster. But that first time is a big learning curve, just how to get in and how to make things happen. And so, just like it is with my business thing right now, it's a big learning curve on how to really start getting that traffic generated and really start getting those subscribers. So, that's something just to think about or to realize when you are doing stuff. And so, yeah, and then another thing he mentioned too was that when you have a big project like that, he learned as why it's important when you're going after something like that, especially my first time, why it's important to set, don't so much focus on the big thing. You have an overall big picture you're going for, but kind of break things down to more manageable chunks. So, for instance, you want to build a house, and so the first thing you're gonna start is research. You're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna sit down this week. I'm gonna do nothing but researching on what's the basic of how to build a good foundation for a tiny house. And then the next week you'll be like, okay, now that I got the research on what's the good foundation to build it, the materials I'm gonna need, I'm gonna go ahead and start buying this material next week. And then you just kind of build on from there. You just set tasks each week that are gonna help you with your overall goal. So after a while, like one thing's building another and building another and building another. You slowly build on each other until you're able to finally complete the task at hand. And that is important. No matter what project you're going after, you need to be able to break that down into manageable chunks, so you don't go crazy. One thing, and then two, that so that way the big goal can happen. Because when you ever just try to go for something all at one time, you're gonna stress yourself out, and then you're not gonna want to go back to it. So by breaking it down to little chunks, you do a little chunk and you feel that little boost of confidence. Okay, cool, I complete that. Now I can move on to this. It makes it easier to move along in the long run. So I think that was very true and honest, and I've noticed that just with projects and whatnot. So that's kind of what I want to bring up or what I want to say for now. A lot of good points I brought up. And honestly, if I were to watch it again, I probably would pull out different or other little things I liked about it. But it just was mainly about this guy. He's in his 30s, just like I am, and or just turned 30, and he's trying to find his way in life, trying to figure out how he wants to go about making his life for himself. And one thing I thought was kind of interesting, that when he has a little family reunion, one of his members of his family was kind of like, so it would be cool to live in a Lego house, but what I really want to be in is like, and he said something about how he wants something with space, something like that, and it kind of made me feel like we were making fun of him. And also one thing he brought up too, which I thought was kind of crappy, was but it is true, but okay, so you have to think about too, when people look at your house, they're gonna look down on you, they're gonna judge you for having a small house, and they're just gonna think, okay, he can't afford a bigger house, and so he isn't on our level, whatever, cool. And it's true, people do judge you by what you have. And but also that was kind of stupid. That kind of made me feel like, really? So you're telling me that I have to spend my whole life living by the rules of others? That's kind of limiting as a person. If you have to spend your life, the possession that you're trying to achieve, the things you have in your life, you're getting those things so that way other people can see you a certain way. that's tiring, it's draining, it's not never ending, and so that kind of rubbed me kind of funny. It was like, so yeah, it's a small house, I agree with that. And people, but we shouldn't be living just to make people happy. That's what I kind of feel like. Now it's different if you are, creating major art, like, you're artists or a comedian or something like that. Yeah, that's your job to make people happy, But when it comes to where you want to live and how you want to live your life that makes you happy, you really can't spend your time trying to make other people, trying to impress people by what you have, because they have their own stuff, and yeah, they may have great stuff too, but you don't know how much debt those people are in, or like what they have to do to get that stuff. And it just made me think about, again, back with morals and values and just integrity and just what you draw or what really dictates your own true self-worth. And it's made me think. And I love things like this that make me think. Is really kind of like extrapolate on what can be and what can't be and what is really important. And so I just want to talk about Tiny House. I think it was a good documentary. I like the fact that it was short. It wasn't like 2-3 hour type deal. It was like an hour and a minute. So I knew I had time, and it made me hesitant to watch it. And wanted to watch it for probably maybe a year. But I just never got around to watching it. So I'm glad I watched it today. It's enjoyable. I'd recommend it for others. I might even write a blog post about it a year or two from now. This is me, Marvin Lee.